Hi guys, and welcome back to another lesson in Algebra 1. Today's lesson is Unit 1, Lesson 6. We are looking at literal equations, and this will be our first day of it. So our objectives today are going to be, I know what literal equations are, and I know how to rearrange equations to get one specific variable alone, and we would call that isolate. This is also a skill that crosses over into science because, especially like in physics, you might get to the point where you need to rearrange a literal equation. And so, knowing this skill helps you beyond just math. All right, let's go ahead and write some notes. So, we've got, literal equations in here in the center. So, we're going to write some part here and here and here about what literal equations are. Okay, so what the heck is a literal equation? It's an equation with multiple variables. And so, what you will end up seeing this with is you'll see multiple letters. Okay. And they can be rearranged to solve for only one variable. Okay. Let's do an example of what is a literal equation? What does it look like? So we got, this goofy thing here. What are some literal equations? So an example here is we can have perimeter equals 2 times length plus 2 times width. Okay. That's a literal equation. We have not plugged any numbers in here for this other than the 2's. And so you have 3 variables. You have perimeter, length, and width. Another example might look something like this. We've got area is 1/2 base times height. Okay. When you are rearranging these without, plugging anything in for these variables, they really don't simplify nicely. I mean, they're not bad, but they can be a little messy looking to your brain. And so, the thing to think about is that we're going to do, PEMDAS, we're going to do our order of operations in reverse. So, if we're doing that in verse, we're going to start with, the addition or subtraction part. It's all the same steps that you use to solve an equation. But the problem is that we're not plugging any numbers into it. It's just going to be a whole bunch of letters. And so we will use, just like how we've solved with regular equations up until now, we're going to use inverse operations to solve it. We're going to remove fractions by multiplying by the reciprocal. Let me give you an example of this. If we have a fraction 3/4, the reciprocal is 4/3. Okay, so you're flipping that fraction and multiplying it by the flip fraction. Okay, and then we have, we're going to divide by whatever is left next to your variable you are trying to find. Okay, so let's look at this example here and let's see what's going on. So what I want to do is I want to compare like what a one-step equation looks like with this, and I want to compare it to when you see something like this for a literal equation. So let's just step over here and let's solve this first one. So if if I'm looking at this equation here, this 15 equals 3y, this is a simple equation to solve. 15 equals 3y. We could divide by 3 on both sides, and we get y is 5. Okay, so that's easy peasy, right? But what if we go and we have this situation where it's a literal equation? There's not any numbers in this. This is actually Newton's second law right here, force equals mass times acceleration. So if we wanted to rearrange this and solve for A, my A is right here, right? So it's that where that letter is. So we need to move that M away from it. It's very similar to how this is set up. Okay. So if we wanted to move this around, let me go ahead and pick a different color. So we'll do F equals MA, and we want to solve for A. I'm just going to go ahead and amuse myself by highlighting my A. That's the one I want to leave alone. Okay. The M is touching it. That means it's being multiplied. So, to undo that, we're going to divide, and then we're going to divide. My M's do cancel out, but we can see it's A equals F divided by M. The F and the M, they do not cancel. This is its most simplified thing. And what this equation means in science is it equals force divided by mass equals acceleration is what this means if you were thinking about it in science terms. But this is a literal equation. We did the same process as this over here. We took and we divided by this part. We divided by this part. Okay, it canceled. But the 15 divided by 3 simplified to 5. The F divided by M could not be simplified anymore, so you're left with a bunch of letters. Let's look at this next example. So if it was a little bit more complicated, we have this guy here, a nice, easy two-step equation. And then we have this one where they want us to solve for x. And this is the linear equation that you would have used, last year in your last math class to graph lines. So let's go ahead and let's solve this first one over here. We got 13 equals 4x plus 1. So if we subtract 1 from both sides, that cancels out. 13 minus 1 is 12 equals 4x. Divide by 4 on both sides, we get x equals 3. A nice, easy peasy equation. We can do the same processes as with this over here. But what we're looking for is we're wanting to isolate x. We're wanting to solve for x, and my x is right here in this position. It was right here in this position for this regular equation one that you're used to looking at. So we're going to do the same thing. We can totally do that with letters. We don't have to get anxious about it. If I highlighted what I'm going to keep, what I'm solving for is this x, I'm going to start by doing my reverse order of operations. So I'm going to do my reverse PEMDAS. So I'm going to start with whatever's being added or subtracted. So we got a plus b, so we're going to subtract b. Okay, that's going to cancel out. I get y minus b equals m times x, which looks confusing to students. Again, I just want to get this x by itself because that's what it told us to solve for. So I'm just going to highlight it again. I'm trying to draw your eye to what we're keeping and what we're trying to move. So this is multiplying. M times x, when they're touching each other like that, that's multiplying. So the inverse is to divide. So I'm going to divide by m on both sides. So we end up with y minus b divided by m equals x. That's what it is when it's all simplified out. I could write it even over here where it's a little bit more room since I ran out of room. When it says to solve for x, that's what it looks like. Okay, it was the same process that we did over here in the blue, but because the blue had more numbers, those numbers simplified. Because this was all letters in the green, it simplifies to what you see boxed in the green. Okay, let's look at this next one. Here is your equation. It's area equals 1/2 base times height. So you know our math formula there. We're going to solve for b. That's what they're asking us to solve for. I'm going to go ahead and highlight the variable that it's asking us to solve for. So I want to get that b by itself. Okay, so my first step, I'm just going to go ahead and rewrite this. So first, let's see, we got a equals 1/2 BH. So my first step is I am going to deal with this fraction. Okay, so because I want to get this b by itself, there's two things touching b. It's the 1/2 and then the h. So I am going to deal with this fraction first. And so remember, to get rid of a fraction, we can multiply by the reciprocal. Okay. So I am going to multiply by 2. It's really 2 over 1, but we're going to multiply by 2. So if I have this here, let's see, we got a equals 1/2 BH, and I multiply this whole shebang by 2 over 1. I take this 2, I'm going to multiply it by a, so I get 2a. This 2 and this 1/2, those will cancel. So this thing just cancels right out. And so I'm going to get BH. Okay, 2a equals BH. All right, so then my next step, so my second step, I am still trying to get this b by itself. So the h is touching it, that means multiply. So I'm going to divide by h, divide by h. So I can write that here. I'm going to divide by h. Okay, so that h cancels, and so I'm going to get 2a divided by h equals b. Okay, this gives students some anxiety because they're kind of wanting to cancel numbers and stuff, but it's not that bad. As long as you remember you're really doing the same thing as you do with regular equations, it's just the numbers aren't canceling out. Okay, let's look at this next one. We've got this equation here, y equals 3n minus np. We want to solve for n. So let me just go in first. I'm going to just make it very concrete. I'm isolating n. I want to get this n by itself. And you're like, oh my gosh, I got n in 2 places. Oh my goodness. Well, what if for our first step, it's like, you reverse distribute. Okay, we would call that factoring, but y'all haven't learned factoring yet. But if we look at this and we got y equals 3n minus np, it's like the n was multiplied by the 3 in the minus p. Okay, so we can pull that out. We can have y equals n parentheses. If we pull that n out, the 3 is what's left over, and then minus p, that's what's left over. Okay, so we pulled out that n, and then second, we can divide by 3 minus p. Okay, so I can treat this as one thing here because it's in the parentheses together. This is going to cancel. And so my answer is going to be y divided by 3 minus p equals n. Okay, let's think about this one. We have this weird looking guy here, f plus 3 divided by k equals 6, and we're going to solve for f. So we are looking to get f by itself, and my f is up here. Okay, so it says, what is my first step? So the first thing I'm going to do, this is f plus 3 divided by k equals 6. And I want to get this f by itself. So there's two things that we got to move, right? Like we got to get that plus 3 and that k out of there. But we cannot handle that plus 3 until we get the k out. And the reason is it's like all one fraction here together. So we've got to deal with the denominator first. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I am going to multiply by k. So I multiply this whole thing by k. The k is going to cancel out down here, and I'm going to get f plus 3 equals, and I'm going to distribute this k times the 6, so I'm going to get 6k. So this also distributes here. Okay, so I still have to get my f by itself. This is still what I'm trying to work on. And so now I see it's plus 3. So my second step is I'm going to subtract 3. Okay, so I get f equals 6k. That 6 and k are touching. We cannot combine them with this minus 3. We cannot simplify that down anymore. So it's just f equals 6k minus 3. Okay, so this one gives us 10 divided by a equals b plus c, and it asks us to solve for a. And the a is down here in the denominator, which makes it even more tricky. Okay, I'm going to highlight this because I just want to focus on what is it that we're trying to solve for. You know, most of the time we're not moving our variable that we're solving for. We're not moving that first or second. But this time we're going to have to, because we've got a fraction that we've got to get rid of. And it's in the bottom of a fraction. So let's see. We're going to write first. So my first step, let's write this over again and think about how we're going to get this a out of the bottom of the fraction. Okay. Well, just like how, let's see, up here, to get this fraction to go away, to get this 2 out from here, we had to multiply by 2. We multiplied everything in there by 2. We're going to multiply everything here by a, okay? And it will cancel that a out of the denominator, just like how we cleared that fraction when it was a number. So we're going to multiply by a. So I'm going to take this and multiply this whole thing by a. A times this guy, that a is going to cancel out. So I'm just going to get 10 equals, but my a is also going to distribute to this guy here. So it's going to get a times b. And, well, actually, you know what I want to do? I want to leave b and c in parentheses. Let me back up. I'm just going to make it a little easier on myself. And I'm going to leave it as a times b plus c. Okay. The reason I left it as that chunk is I'm trying to get the a by itself. And so we are multiplying against all three things, but I can leave that thing on the right in parentheses like this. And so then it makes it easy as my second step to end up dividing by BC. Okay. That's why I didn't, that's why I kind of backtracked a little and I was like, wait a minute, I want to leave that together in parentheses. Okay, so we are going to, let's see, we're going to divide by B plus C. Okay, so we get 10 divided by B plus C equals A. And so I hope that helps, guys. Definitely, I would recommend making it concrete for yourself where you highlight the variable you're trying to keep alone, because it does take a little bit for your brain to decide that literal equations are not evil. And so I would recommend, highlighting it, making sure you're like, okay, that's what I want to try to solve for. And then you keep working towards that. Until next time, bye.